2020 was a good eye-opening experience for a lot of people. And you can either do one or two things. You can be proactive about the things that you experienced, or you can double down on the old lifestyle of comfortability and just brush it over as if it was nothing, as if it never even happened. That's why, I'm saying I'm doing the content not because I like it, but because I do it out of necessity. Not because I like growing plants or that's the first thing that I would love to do. No, I would love to make music. I like making music. But sometimes the things that you love to do don't necessarily make it's not valuable. It doesn't put food on the table. Though it consumes a lot of time, you're not necessarily bringing in a whole lot of money with it. At least I know that if I grow food, I will have food. At least I know if I grow food, other people will need food. People don't necessarily need music. People like music, but people don't necessarily need music. But people need food. People need certain commodities. I was making t-shirts, graphic t-shirts before I moved out here, which I want to get back into. Probably using Spring Tea to, sell some of my designs and stuff. But anyway, there's a need for clothing. And so that's why graphic t-shirts was such a good thing to get into, because people need clothes. People need to cover themselves. As far as music, though I really love making music, I like it. I would sit down and make music all day. And there's people who have seen me make music all day. But in reality, it doesn't make as much. It's a very competitive field because a lot of people like to do that as a pastime, but it doesn't necessarily make as much unless you're doing something strange for a little change. You don't necessarily got to do something strange for a little change, but it will definitely help you, unfortunately. But in my case, though I think I make pretty decent music, it wasn't getting a whole lot of traction. And so I had to adjust. I had to pivot. And it sucks, though I'm happy that I still get to use my music in my videos whenever I get a chance to. For those who like to hear the music, you can go to my SoundCloud if you want to listen to it. But I had to learn how to pivot. And I think that there's going to come a time where people are going to have to learn to pivot into things that they're comfortable with. And you got to get used to being uncomfortable. And you got to understand that uncomfortability may come at any moment in the twinkling of an eye. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just allows more room to grow. Upon moving out here, I did a very, very uncomfortable thing. I actually left my job to move back with my parents. I used to live in the Houston area, and I had my own apartment. I had my car. I was living by myself, and I love living by myself. But then I decided to do something that was a little bit uncomfortable. And I moved out here after camping out here like one time, maybe twice. I'm not too sure. I think one time I definitely knew that I did camp out here. And then after living in Houston for 2 years, I came living out here. And this was one of the biggest changes that I ever did in my life. And I left my job to move out here. And I didn't have to do it, but I did. And when I moved out here, I didn't have a job lined up because I'm in the middle of nowhere, literally, like nowhere. So there's not a whole lot happening out here. And then, of course, after moving out here, my car broke down, unfortunately. And so I was left with a lot of the technology that I did have. I had three cell phones at the time. I'm down to one. I had my laptop. The laptop ended up breaking. So, and then a lot of the stuff that I did bring was unfortunately in storage that was miles away. And so I didn't have anything accessible. So I had to learn to work with what I had, which was a crappy cell phone at the time. But I made use of that crappy cell phone, and I still am making use of that crappy cell phone. And it's not the most, fortunate of situations, especially considering moving out here, but I don't regret moving out here because there's a lot that I've learned to a point where my sister actually, I was on the cell phone with my sister, and she was actually telling me how, after having a conversation with her about the soil and the pH and doing all this stuff, soil testing and stuff, and she was just in awe about all the information that I was able to provide, like off the top. And she was like, wow, I didn't know that. She was like, I don't think you knew how much you actually learned. Like, she was like, it was just amazing how, you were saying all these things and all these different species of bugs and insects and everything, and learning about the yucca and the yucca soap and all of these things. And I'm just sitting here saying, like, it's a casual conversation. And then I kind of forget that a lot of people don't understand that because they're not hands-on with a lot of these things. They're not hands-on with a lot of resources and anything like that. They're not hands-on with mesquite. They're not hands-on with soil. We see dirt, but we don't put our hands in dirt. I grew up in the suburbs, so we're not used to that. And being out here, I'm used to putting my hands in the dirt. I kid you not, like, because I used to play video games, y'all. Like, my lifestyle compared to what I used to do back in the day is completely like flipped upside down. You wouldn't even know what the heck, because I used to play video games. I used to play Call of Duty. I used to play Halo. I used to play, I had my Xbox One. I haven't got any, I got a Switch actually. I got a Switch. I got a Nintendo Switch. But I used to do all of these things and my life completely changed. And I think it's for the better, because now my time that I'm doing is actually means something versus just spending my time, wasting my time, and being paid to waste my time. The content that I'm putting out there, though I'm hoping that it generates a bigger audience, a bigger, broader audience, and hopefully that it'll make income. But the time that I'm expending is not a waste of time, because this time is time that is utilized to helping people grow. It's not content that's going to waste your time. It's not content that's going to steal people's time, because there are content out there that steals people's time. When I'm talking about plants and, everything that I'm, the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to growing anything, especially when it comes to like my tomato plants and stuff, all my tomatoes are dead because of the cold. But hopefully my experience will help somebody else learn what and what not to do, so that they can save their time, because there's a lot of things in this life that's going to steal your time. And again, I said this in my last video, but my time is very, very, very valuable. I'm not just wasting my time putting this out there just because, I just like to do it. No, I'm putting this out there, in hopes of receiving something for my time, because I consider my content as a job. And I feel like every content creator should see their content as a job, not simply because they love it, but because they're putting in the time. They should be paid for it. People go to work, and what do? They pay people for their time. And if you are on the clock and you decide to sit down, they call it what? Now you're stealing time, because you're not working. You're just stealing time. They don't say that they're stealing money. They say that they're stealing time. So I think that's an interesting way to look at it. But yeah.